question. Are many Asian people fallen beings? Well, if you're not familiar with the term fallen beings, you need to watch my video called How the World Was Created. It explains in there what fallen beings are. They're basically people who are extremely self-focused and sociopaths, narcissists, have no empathy for other people. So the reality you see on Earth is the vast majority of people are the original Earth inhabitants. And I also explained that in my video about how the world was created, what that means. So these are the beings that were originally on Earth. At some point, the fallen beings were allowed to embody here, and along with the fallen beings came what I call avatars, which are people from natural planets, where you don't have warfare and torture and this kind of thing, to kind of hold the balance for the fallen beings. So the fallen beings are always very self-centered, very selfish. They seek to control humankind. So when you look at the planet, the vast majority of people are the original Earth inhabitants. There's only a small percentage of fallen beings. So, you know, you can't really say that many Asian people are fallen beings. You find fallen beings many places on Earth, and what you have to realize about fallen beings is that they're very much attracted to power. So you can look at the Earth and you can see where there are societies that give leaders an opportunity to exercise great power. And I grew up in Denmark, which is a small country of 5 million people that really doesn't have a whole lot of influence on the world stage. So naturally, this is not a country where a lot of fallen beings are attracted. I'm not saying there aren't any, but it's not really where they first of all seek to embody. But you look at the world stage and you see that, well, you've got the United States, you've got Russia, you've got England, you've got China. And so the greater influence or power a country has, the more likely it is to attract fallen beings to its leadership. Now, it's not just physical power, there are also fallen beings who want to have what you might call intellectual power. So you do find a certain amount of fallen beings in universities, for example, and other institutions like that, that define what is true for society. So I would say that Asian people, I don't think there's a bigger concentration of fallen beings among Asian people than there is in many other places. There are obviously some in China that are attracted to the physical power. Japan, not as much today as before the Second World War, where you saw more this, like, for example, you can say, to take Japan before the Second World War. They believed the emperor was God. That's a typical fallen being idea. You know, that it wants to make it seem like one person is God on earth. Really a fallen idea, because that gives that person ultimate power, right? You can't really object to God, right? Or as you can if you're an atheist, but I mean, in a power sense. So there were many people supporting the emperor. I'm not even saying the emperor was necessarily a fallen being, the last emperor, but certainly when you go back, they were the ones who created that belief, they were fallen beings. And many people who supported them and who believed in the superiority of Japan and their right to do whatever they wanted, they were fallen beings. But you see, in general, you can see societies like I know a little more about South Korea because I've been there several times than other nations, and you have a situation in South Korea where after the Korean War, the country was basically devastated, and the government gave enormous power to these business conglomerates, chaebols they are called. And conglomerates like that, you know, that have so much power in society, they also tend to attract fallen beings. And it's the same everywhere. Wherever you see, I mean, basically you can say the dream of a fallen being is to be able to exercise power without accountability. So they have power, but nobody can really object to the way they're using it. So whenever you see, whether it's businesses, whether it's, as I said, scientific or learning institutions or financial institutions or political institutions, wherever you see that people can exercise power without accountability, you can be pretty sure that there is a high concentration of fallen beings there, because this is the kind of environment they thrive in. And it's not just that you can say the leader is a fallen being, but also the people who keep that leader in power and are doing his bidding excuse me, are often fallen beings. So you take Adolf Hitler, who was obviously a fallen being, but most of the people around him who were doing his bidding were also fallen beings. Like, for example, the architect who came up with the final solution for the concentration camps. Clearly a fallen being who comes up with this kind of idea. And the ones who are executing it. And there are lower rankings of fallen beings. I mean, there are, you can't project, as I've said before, that all fallen beings are ultimately evil. Because if you look at my video again, How the World Was Created, fallen beings fell on a certain planet where they had set themselves up as leaders. And there were many of the people who, when the leader fell, they followed the leader out of loyalty. So they are fallen beings, but they are not the more evil ones. So you will see, for example, in Hitler or Japan, a certain number of people who followed the leader. And what you often see in these people is that they have this unquestioning loyalty to the leader. They really want to believe that the leader is infallible. And they're very, very reluctant to question that sense of infallibility of the leader. So that's another telltale sign of fallen beings. And what you see in these followers is that they're willing to do almost anything to uphold the illusion that the leader is infallible. They're willing to kill their fellow people. I mean, I remember as a child, or probably as a teenager, learning about the Soviet Union. And learning about how if you objected to the state, you'd be arrested and either killed or tortured or put in a concentration camp in Siberia. It was actually Solzhenitsyn that brought that concept to the West, because before that we didn't really know much about the Gulag and what was happening there. So anyway, what I was always wondering about was, how can you get so many people in a society that are willing to kill and torture their own countrymen, even sometimes their own family members? It was mind-boggling to me. But that's because you have a certain amount of people who are either fallen beings or they have been pulled into the fallen mindset, and they have this unquestioning loyalty to the leader or the state or the system. And therefore they're willing to do whatever it takes to destroy the opposition that might expose the fallibility of the system.